with you. Thank you for the introduction, Jasmine. That was a great way to present, but I would like to say that I am just a woman of color who came to United States 21 years ago with holding under my umbrella my engineering degree. And I have to start all over when I landed here. But before getting into how I led into my path here in the States, I would like to share with you guys that you are students or maybe between 16 to 24 years old, that in my time trying to become an engineer, I was only 15 years old when I graduated from high school. And yes, I know that this is kind of crazy, but it was the way that it was. And also I was the only woman engineer that was pursuing a career like that. So that was even harder for me. And I do remember how difficult it was to get to the university at the end of, imagine, no, at the age of 15, with around 120 students, where 100 were only men and 20 we were women, and they were all older than me. So, and on top of that, all of them, they seemed like a math geniuses, you know, so they were super brilliant and intelligent. And I was feeling very incomplete and very uncomfortable. And I didn't feel that I didn't actually belong there. So, so I remember that in order for me to graduate, I had to pass, maybe as you all my grades and the courses with a GPA higher than 3.3. That was one of the requirements for us. The GPA has to be super high. And at that moment I was failing 3 courses. So it was super hard. I was like, I won't be able to graduate and I'm gonna be disappointing my parents. They probably don't want to know about that. And there was this class called thermodynamics that probably you guys have heard about it, that it was kind of Chinese for me. And there was another one called electrotechnia, and they both were like a foreign language to me because they were kind of very scientific. So in order for me to graduate and to pass those classes, I was invited to go to tutorials on Saturday and to get a mentor who can help me and to talk to the professor, which I didn't feel pretty much confident or happy about doing that. So in that moment, when they said, if you want to pass, if you want to go into practice, you have to come during the weekends, during the next 2 months. And I was thinking inside me, well, my goal is to graduate. My goal is to start traveling, and my goal is to have my university degree. So I was done for that. I was failing the course. I was obviously my goals were not going to be achieved if I keep the failing of my courses that I wanted to be. So I started going and paying more attention to classes and reading everything, taking everything from curiosity instead of for I need a degree or I need to pass the class or I need this GPA. It was more from curiosity of what I am learning. But one time I remember that I started asking too many questions, right? If I wanted to succeed, I needed to be clear on everything that I was asked for. So I started asking questions, and one of my friends in that moment, classmates, he told me, "Are you dumb? Why are you asking so many questions? Will you please let the teacher just keep running with the class?" And I was like, oh my gosh, I know that I asked too many questions, but I really need to pass this class. And I keep asking questions. And for my surprise, which was something great, asking questions nowadays help me to develop my critical thinking and actually to come up with great solutions. So I am stopping here just to debrief and tell you that first, never stop dreaming, never stop pursuing your goals, and never stop asking questions that are not dumb questions. So to continue with my story, I was taking notes. I was like super, taking my notes and making sure that I was understanding everything. And the date of the exam came, and the teacher says, well, this is the exercise, this is the test. And it was exactly the exercise that I was learning in my tutorial classes during the weekends. And he said, and you guys can take your notes. If you guys were coming from a tutorial, you can take your notes and just keep doing, do your best for the test. So I was allowed to take notes, to take my notes for the exam. And guess what? It was amazing because I took my notes. Everything was super clear. Certain things were different, but since I was asking too many questions, I was able to figure it out what I had to change, and I did it. And I received my test score with a 4.5. And from 40 people that we were doing the test, only two passed the exam. And that is a moment when I realized that if I want to do something, I can do it, but we have to do the extra mile, right? And then I learned that there is no way for me to feel embarrassed to ask questions, or even in moments where other ones were, making fun of me or trying to diminish me. So by my surprise, the person who bullied me didn't finish the career and was out of the career, and nowadays I don't know where is she, but my surprise, those people who are always diminishing you or doing something like that is the people that is not actually the role model for who do you want to be. So yes, I feel disappointed. Yes, it was hard to be the only woman among so many men. It was uncomfortable also. But instead of feeling discouraged, I continued to remind myself during my career what I wanted in my life and why a career on engineering or STEM was so important to me. And then if I move forward, if I move faster, when I arrived to United States, my life wasn't easy neither because there were too many different challenges. And of course that you guys, I know that you guys have challenges too, or your parents probably as an immigrant, right? Like things like feeling rejected because of our culture or our accent or our immigration status, and navigating the system here is kind of hard, right? So in that moment, I think that I was around 25 years old, 24, 25. And again, my confidence went totally down to the floor because again, I was the only one on a country where my degree this time wasn't validated. I was an engineer in Colombia, but here the degree wasn't validated. So I have to start from zero, literally from zero. And once again, I spent many years working, but not feeling happy. I was happy before, but then when I came here looking for happiness and looking for to avoid too many conflicts and political issues that my country was having, I found myself totally unhappy. And in those moments, I had just two options. One was to get into the press, or the other one was to rebuild myself. And actually, um, I didn't recognize myself as a depressed people or with anxiety or with something like that. So I decided to really discover myself and start learning more about myself. And I travel, I read books, I met inspirational people, and I learned how to remove something that we all have at certain moment, that is the imposter syndrome, um, for my life and for my love, for love for myself, right? And one of the things that I did and continue to do, was when I will discourage or talk bad about myself, when I look into the mirror, I will stop and tell myself, I love myself, I honor myself, and I deserve the best. And this is something that at the beginning is difficult. I can't deny it. Is you feel like you are dumb doing that, but it's also something that I invite you all to do. To in those moments when you criticize yourself hardly, which we do frequently, or when we have that imposter syndrome that is trying to do what others want for us to do, just to look into your mirror and say, I love myself, and I and I love the way that I am. I love who I am right now. And especially when you are in moments of vulnerability. Remember, I love myself and I honor myself and I deserve the best. This is such a strong statement. And well, my journey has been continue, of course, and it's been very long in the United States. And as I mentioned to you guys before, I started from zero. And maybe you have heard from other inspirational people about how is the journey for Latinos. And right now, I am the chief of staff of an organization that is actually decentralizing the financial economical system for the business to business. Is something amazing because it includes not only technology but also economical impact and also innovation and technology. And previous to that, I was the chief of staff of an organization that helps also the reach to close the reach between Latina women to get into tech industry and to keep growing professionally, called Latinas in Tech. And previous to that, I was working also in a nonprofit organization called Digital Nest that helps also underrepresented students or young people to gain the skills and to get into the workforce. And before that, I was the author of two books, and I basically wrote those two books because I wanted myself to make sure that my path or the tips that helped me to become a better human being and to become myself and proud about myself were in written. And it's not until today when I am in conferences or when I am talking to in front of the CEO of the organization where I am, or when I talk to my children, that I realize to remember myself, to bring my whole self. And I, for example, I don't longer care about my accent. That was something that before I wasn't proud about it. And yes, of course, I was rejected for too many years because of my accent, or because of I am a Latina, or because I didn't study here, or because, I mean, things that actually I don't care anymore. And it's actually the opposite, the way that I feel, but it's because I love myself. I love to bring my whole self into every situation. I love my long hair. I love my accent. But what I most love is that I work on my values and about seeing Alexandra as a person that is next to me, like if it was my child, and feeling proud of her. So with this invitation that I want to do for all of you is to recognize who you are and what are your values. And something very, very, very important, and I know that probably I am running out of time already, is my invitation is for each one of you to think about who do you admire? Who do you admire? And it could be a president, a leader, could be anybody, could be seriously, could be Mickey Mouse, anybody that you admire, and and think about the qualities that you admire this person for. And those qualities are usually inside each one of us. I'm going to give you an example. I always say that I admire Barack Obama and I admire Jesus. And I admire Jesus because he was a leader and he was very determined on what he wanted to do. And also because his love on changing humanity, right? And I also admired my dad because the love, the commitment for his family, and because he was the best entrepreneur that I knew in my time. So, and after many, many, many years, I discovered that those values that I just shared with you guys are values that I have inside me. And when I discovered that I am a very determined person, that I love my family, that I am committed with social impact and with change, I can see how can I come into a meeting, how can I come into a conference, how can I come being authentic for myself and for others. So please, please, please bring those values from you to everybody else that you know. Feel proud of who you are and feel proud of that we are all here in different ways to make a change. And to finalize, I would like to share with you guys a story about my own daughter. So I have three kids. One is 18, the other one is 17. And the 17-year-old, the older one is 11. My daughter, the middle one, came to me and she asked me about college. She said, Mommy, I want to become a professional, but I don't really know what to do. And all that I know is that I want to have a good way of living. So I want to make money. And I was just listening to her. And she said that inside her, she wanted to become a counselor, like a therapist. But after doing some research, she said that actually counselors or therapists don't make a lot of money. So I keep listening to her. And she said, Mommy, I want to know, what do you think about what I am telling you? And my response, of course, that I am an engineer and I know how important it is to be on STEM, was to talk about my perspective. So I told her how good it would be to become an engineer and to be on STEM, or to be on STEM, because there is first a warranty for herself that she will have a job. This is where the future is going to, right? And also, if she wants to earn money, this is also a good path for her to pursue her dream. And then she asked me, like, but I need to just be behind the scenes and coding, and this is not something that I would like to do, or I am not sure if I want to do. And I said, well, I think that you have the skills to do that. Do you like math? And she was like, oh my gosh, I love math. And I love also this, and I love also that. And I shared with her that engineers are not just the people behind the scenes doing coding. Coding, of course, that is one aspect of being an engineer. But the other part of becoming an engineer is how important is to learn how to solve problems, to be creative, to be organized, to use your logic. And logic is going to help you to do a great planning, I told her, and to create great strategies. And this is part of being an engineer. And I also told her that as an engineer, you also can be a people person if you want to, right? If you are that kind of person. I am an engineer, but I am a people person. So I said, becoming an engineer or you going through STEM doesn't mean that you can be a people person. And she loves to laugh, and she's always the center of attention of her group. And I said, this is actually totally the opposite. And yes, you are going probably to be behind the scenes at the beginning, learning how to solve problems, how customers think, and everything now that is, calling. And we all know that is on applications, is innovations, is VCR, is AI, and everything that engineers are creating is to help us to have a better world, right? Because look, we all use our phones, we all use applications, we all use probably Alexa in our house, right? And thanks to those applications, we are getting closer to our families, getting closer to innovations, we are closing the gap on many things that before wasn't even able to. So this is a new world, and if you become an engineer, you will have the opportunity to be in the future and to analyze data, and probably in the future you are going to be able to be a manager, which is a great skill to gain while you are learning. So at the end, she was so happy to see the other perspective, and I am sharing this with you guys because I know that probably you guys have the same thought. What can I do? What is next for me? And I am an engineer, and I am applying all my skills as a chief staff officer. And now I am able also to manage people, to coach people, to lead people into their better skills to do their best. So an invitation for all of you and to her, of course, was to think about, I am an engineer, but what is my main goal? And when you have those goals, write them down. I always write down my goals, and I always want to make sure that that I that I am pursuing with a plan and with that action what I want to pursue. And I wrote down like a year ago, and I want to become a thought leader, and I want to be recognized as a thought leader and as an engineer, and I want to onboard more Latinos to become more successful and more professionals. And but I had fear. I remember that I was full of fear, and when you have fear, you can't actually achieve your goals, right? So I learned also that it's very important for us to increase our self-confidence always. And the way that I do it is to imagine that I am releasing my fear in a bottle, in a bottle, in a container, with all my intention to something that is bigger to me. To me, is God. To you could be the universe, your heart, your intuition, whatever, your mom, your best friend, maybe just the sky. But imagine that all your fears are coming out from you and being held by something that is bigger. And imagine also that you can replace that with something positive, with something that actually you deserved, with something that you actually want to achieve. And then repeat the process to yourself. I'm going to achieve my goals. I'm going to be able, I'm going to do this. And well, I just hope that in summary, you all remember three things. Thing number one is love yourself, honor yourself, and respect yourself. There is no better mentor or advocate than your own self. Don't forget to work on your values and boost your confidence always, always, no matter where you go. And if you can take your values with you, is the easier way to be confident and to talk to people and also to stand up by yourself. And finally, please write down your goals, your dreams, those dreams that you have, and check them periodically. Check them every quarter, every 3 months, how I am doing with my goals. And I am here to support you in any way I can. I will be happy to connect with you guys in LinkedIn, which is a great way for you guys to be out. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk here and to share with all of you my experience. And I pass it to you, Jasmine, or Abigail, or Carmen.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to hear about your stories. So we're going to move into the question and answer portion. And anyone who has a question, you can feel free to drop it in the Q&A section here on Zoom, and I'll go ahead and read it out loud. And I do have just a couple questions for you to start off, and encourage everyone else to start dropping questions. But how did you find roles and jobs that you found aligned with your values, such as supporting Latinas and people of color?
That's actually a great question. And I will say that since I was little one, and in any country we have underrepresented people, right? So in anywhere. And when I was down in Colombia, I used to feel inside my heart the desire to go and support people. And I went to teach math to little kids, or I went to teach people how to do first aid, or things like that. Like it was always like inside my heart to see a better world. But it wasn't until I came like ready to go to college when my parents told me about innovation and being an engineer and thinking in the future, that I started thinking about, oh my gosh, I need to be an engineer. And then when I came to United States, I had at that time like approx 7 years of experience in the corporate world, which is a world that is very competitive and revenue driven, and it's kind of different. That I wanted to try to go to the nonprofit world and learn how it's actually to impact the world and to support others like me. And this is when I started actually working toward Latinos and towards underrepresented communities. But I never realized that I was actually helping myself. So something that now I apply always is that I don't think that I am helping others. I think that I am helping myself through the work or the role that I am doing right now. This is how I think. And I think all the time in what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of my life? And when I am here, that I am back in the corporate world with this technology company and innovation and decentralization of the financial business economy, I think that again, this is a disruptor, this is changing, this is impact, and it goes back to my root when I was little, which is I wanted to support and help change the world, and the world changed when I started change on me. So this is how it started.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
So moving on to another question is, can you describe a little bit about what you do in your role as chief of staff?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the chief of staff basically supports the CEO of the organization on anything that he doesn't want to do. In other words, it's like the CEO at certain point of the organization is the face from outside the organization. So he talks to stakeholders, shareholders, to investors, to PR, and ideally the chief of staff start becoming more the same face inside the organization, meaning that I need to work aligning processes. I need to work a lot helping making decisions for the organization, helping that the culture of the organization is running well, helping that the mission and the vision are aligned with every single process, making sure that the technology or the systems are in place and that everybody is talking the same language, but at the C-level, like in the C-level, right? I don't go down because everybody has their own teams. So it's making sure basically that our C-level is doing a great job doing the cascade effects. So we actually can have leaders that inspire and that everybody is working toward their goals, their KPIs, systems are in place. Because again, this is part of the role of the CEO before he is moving forward towards investors and PR and making sure that the organization is growing in that side. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, this is a great question.
And then just a reminder to our attendees, you guys can feel free to drop any questions within the question and answer feature here on Zoom. So do you want to go a little bit more into finding mentors, especially within your community? I know when you were talking about your experience in college, you mentioned that you started tutoring and you found mentors. So what is the process? How do you find a mentor?
Well, in my time, we didn't have mentors, which is something that I really love for all of you to really take those resources. So even in your own university, your teachers, like reaching out to them is a great resource. I know that you can be like, oh my gosh, but I don't know if I want or whatever, but this is a great resource for you guys. And then the second layer, I will say that is here locally. I personally love Digital Nest, and they have this coming month, the summit, where they are going to bring like around hundreds of mentors for all of you students to make sure that you guys can find that mentor and the way and the support that you guys needed. But also there are global organizations like Latinas in Tech, who also they have their summit, and they're going to have tons of mentors from all over the world in the tech organizations that will be a great resource for you guys. So make sure that you go into latinasintech.org and sign up for the summit. And if you guys need passes, I'll be happy to help you with that. The same with digitalness. This is free, and why not to take those resources, right? And lastly, I will say that I know that could be intimidating to be on a place where you are saying, hey, I need a mentor. But something that I really recommend is to go through LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn, put your profile. I know that it could be difficult. I hear you all, but actually having your LinkedIn profile and then seeing people that you admire or that you need experience, you can just filter. It's super simple, right? So you just filter and look for, I don't know, if I want to work at Google or if I want to work at Paystand, I just pull Paystand engineers and then I look for the person and then I just try to connect. I send a note and say, hey, listen, do you have 15 minutes of your time to talk to me about this specific issue? It won't be more than 15 minutes, but I really would like to know, how did you engage with your career? This is something that I actually learned, and is Jasmine, to be very specific, but also to be mindful about people's time. And when I was on my 20s, I used to think like, I'm gonna connect and then I'm just gonna email that person. And if that person doesn't reply to me, it's very mean, right? So I used to take things personal. No, 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 no. Don't never take anything personal. I swear, it's not necessary. Totally the opposite. I always, now I think, if it's not this person, it wasn't meant to be for me. And the person that I need is gonna come. So I will check Latinas in Tech, I will check Digital Nest, I will check on LinkedIn, and I will check also with my professors, with my teachers, with my friends, saying like, check with me too, I will be happy to support. And then I will say, I am looking for someone who is gonna help me, and that person is gonna come to me because I'm ready. I'm ready. That's a good way.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big user on LinkedIn as well. It's been such a great resource. So I
Right?
also wanted to ask you a little bit about your two books, and if you could just go over them a little bit in detail to kind of share information about, I know one of them really does touch a lot about work-life balance, and then the second one is living a very successful life. So can you share a little bit more about this?
Yes, absolutely. So the book on how to balance your life was written after 5 years of being here in the States and feeling that I didn't belong and feeling that I was working too much and feeling like out of my core and out of a space. Like I was feeling all over except where I used to be happy.
Mhm.
And the book is basically like the 7 or 8 steps that I took in order to go back to my balance and that I still practice every day. So when I finish writing the steps that help me to realize that I need a space for me every day to go back to my core, I start sharing those topics with other people and they were like, oh my gosh, this is great. Can I have it? So I was like, yes, of course, try it. And then come back to me and tell me if this is working for you or not. And they came back to me and they said, this is fabulous. At the end, the book started to become a program. And at the end, the program was delivered to thousands of people in South America and here in the States too. And basically, Jasmine, I will say that if you do, you don't, I mean, I'll be happy to send you copies to all of you. Um, but I will say that taking care of yourself is very important and having balance. I have too many people who used to tell me, oh, yes, I have balance in my life. And I have, what is your balance? Well, guess what? I drink a lot of water every day and I exercise a lot. And yes, that's great, right? But this is just one part of your balance. Balance from Stanford and Harvard University says that we have 5 different aspects where we need to achieve until certain grade a high percentage of achievement. In other words, we have the physical balance, which is, of course, how to eat, how much do you take breathing exercises, how much you are in contact with nature, etc., etc. I think that we kind of, we got it here. And then the other one is your mental balance, which is not about how many books are you reading per day or how many PhDs or degrees do you have. It's more about the negativity that we hold in our brain. That Stanford University did a research, and they mentioned in an article like 10 years ago that 70% of the majority of people holds negative thoughts. In other words, when we wake up saying, oh my gosh, another day. If we open the shower and we don't have hot water, we're, oh my gosh, another freaking hot water. If we don't have gas, oh my gosh, the gas is super expensive. If we get into, in my case, in my job, and my supervisor didn't say hi to me or whatever, oh my gosh, I am doing something wrong. And at the end of the day, 70% of our thoughts are negative. So when we hold that, it's like, imagine that you're holding a space full of garbage. We need to get out of those garbage in order to put things that really work on you, right? So what I need to start is thinking if I am holding negative thoughts against others or against me. And the majority of people, Jasmine, holds negative thoughts against ourselves, meaning that we criticize ourselves too much. And guess what? That holds off our achievement to success. So we need to be aware that we are human, that we make mistakes, etc., and that it's fine to make mistakes, but it's also fine to say, you did great, Alexandra. And the third aspect is the social aspect, which means for leaders nowadays, being vulnerable is kind of, oh no, I don't want to be vulnerable, because if you know too much about me, you're going to take advantage. And I kind of get that, I understand that. But actually, probably you have heard about Brené Brown, who is a great author who talks about vulnerability and how important it is to be human, right? Be human being when you are working. So this is another aspect, like how to be vulnerable, how to receive feedback, how to give feedback, how to solve conflict resolution, how to work in collaboration. This is the social one. And then one that is super important, and again, this is Harvard University showing research, is on the spiritual muscle or the spiritual balance. And we are not talking here about religion. Religion is part of the spiritual balance, but the spiritual balance is that, I don't know how to say that word in English, but it's that center, right? That core that gives you the answers, that help you to be realigned, that help you to make decisions when you don't know how to make decisions. This is equally important. And finally, the last part is the emotional balance, meaning the famous emotional intelligence that we know that Daniel Goleman is one of the best authors about that. But at least when I was little, I wasn't trained about how to convert, how to transform, or even how to recognize my emotions. And this is important, right? Like, for example, on Saturday, and I'm gonna be very short on this, one of my coworkers came with an email being very, like, sharp. Like, why are you sending me emails on a Saturday? And I was like, oops. I could reply to him saying, like, immediately, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Or I could be like, come on, you just don't need to read it. Don't read your email if you don't want to read it. Or, but instead of that, I was like, I want to hold the space to feel how I am feeling with his reply and see what I have to do to transform the emotion that I have instead of trying to change him. So I said, well, I feel frustrated because it wasn't with a bad intention that I did that. So I hold my frustration. And then I was like, I understand, Alexandra, that you have this frustration, digest it, let it be, let it go, and then move on. And then the next day, on Monday, we were talking normal. I apologized. He apologized. He knew that he was sharp on his reply. And we moved forward instead of, holding the resentment and no talking to the person, or then just putting more and more resentment that doesn't really help you to move forward. So I think that those 5 aspects are important and are part of my book.
Yeah, and then so in total, how many publications do you have? Is it the work?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It is well, this is my main book, and the other two books. One is about diversity and inclusion, and I feel proud to say that that book is being a book that was published and how do you say, and endorsed by the United Nations, and I was the only Latina that was able to be a co-author on that book. And the other book is also, I am a co-author with some amazing woman, and is regarding the self-confidence of a woman, and I am part of their book as well. So those are my publications, and I hope that I can get more sooner than later. Being honest with you, I've been called to publish more books, but the writing is kind of hard for the amount of time that I have. So I'm thinking that maybe there are newer ways that are more catching, at least for me and probably for you guys that are young, that is podcast, or maybe doing, like short documentaries and talking to people about what to do to be successful, or what is to be a CSO on an organization, like more practical things. This is what I'm thinking that is the next step for me.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. So going into kind of trends within tech, what do you see in the upcoming future of tech? What kind of trends do you see developing over the next couple of years?
Wow, this is a great question. And actually, let me see if I can pull something. I was on a conversation with someone who was talking to me about artificial intelligence and where the next jobs are gonna land. And he told me something that, let me see if I can. Well, I don't think that you guys can see, but before we were thinking about artificial intelligence like that, right? Like robots. You guys probably know who they are, like robots, and such a weird thing like 200 years ago. And right now, the artificial intelligence is here. The data is here. This is how, Tesla is producing his car, and Joby Aviation is producing his airplanes, and Paystand is producing the new way to pay. And there is one great book that I will recommend you, that is Prediction Machines, and it's about the questions that you are asking. This book is great, and it shows us how artificial intelligence and data are actually avoiding something that they call natural stupidity, which means making the wrong decisions. And basically, the jobs of the future, all the jobs of the future include data. Data is essential for all of us. And the jobs of the future, I'm sorry, I should send you this graph that I am showing here. But basically, the top jobs are going to be on in terms of social and creativity and strategy based, meaning that the more you think on creativity or strategy based and social are the jobs that are landing in the future. And this generation of millennials, or the next generation of millennials that I forgot the name, if you realize, Jasmine, is no people like in my time that we were thinking about, oh, I'm gonna help this organization on whatever, like let's say Coca-Cola, because it's a big organization and I want to be part of that. Nowadays, the youth, I see how is more social responsible with the environment, with what they are creating and what the impact is gonna be. And this is amazing, because actually this is where the future is landing, right? Social, creativity, strategy based. Um, Meaning that there is a space, of course, for all the engineers. This is something that is there and it's gonna be there for any STEM career. CEOs, of course. For I am reading this because he gave me that information a week ago. Being a social worker is something that is gonna be there. PR is also something that is gonna be like in the safe zone for the future. Psychiatrists as well, and then the danger zone, which means that is asocial and just optimization based. It's like the danger zone again is optimization in the left side, and a social, right? No social, but a social. So, and the danger zone is like, for example, basic translators or radiologists. And when I asked him, why do you think about that? He said, well, because there are too many machines now that are actually doing the work for that, or telemarketers, because you know that there is more new ways to actually do telemarketing. So those are the jobs that are actually, you know, in a very good position. Definitely, I will say that anything that is related with analytics is very important. Optimization, analytics, predictive, right? And we are in a moment when everything is getting automated. So having those analytics and getting into the world of, I will say that another book that I will recommend is called the Age of Surveillance Capitalism. It's a great book for all of you to read, and it talks about how the human beings are fighting for the frontier of power and in the future. And it's a good way to see what are the works that will land into the future. Definitely, I will say that there are risks on everything, and one of the risks is, of course, that we have 7 giants that are already manipulating everything, and we all know them. But there are also many new people like Paystand, who is kind of making sure that we have disruptors, and that the 7 actually are, you know, being more decentralized, to say this in a good way. So yeah, this is what I think right now. There is a huge benefits and revolution for being engineers, and the future by 2030 is going to be just transformation on data, AI, and the industry is huge in order for us to achieve great jobs.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to come to the end of our time, but I have one final question for you. And that is, how did college prepare you for your current position? What kind of skills did you learn in college that you continue to use today? I think a lot of us are college students. So I think just this would be a great closing question.
Great question. I will say to definitely keep using the solving solutions that you guys are doing already. Your logic, what is this after this, your strategy, management skills in terms of project management skills. This is something amazing, and I'm pretty sure that you all have to deal with projects. Making sure that you always think on goals, like what is my goal, what is the planning, how can I do this. Read a lot about articles or leaders that you admire in terms of innovation and in terms of future. I don't like to read anymore because now I use glasses, but I love I love to hear, right? So that's why I was talking on the oh my gosh, the
Podcast.
for me, podcast. Sorry, I forgot the word on podcast. So when I am running or when I am driving or where I have a free time, I just play my podcast, or I just hear my books, and this is the best way to be updated. And you guys have great resources at the university, so go for it. I love the speakers that you guys have up there and the resources. You have everything there, so that's great. And I will say that I am so proud of all of you for being in college and for pursuing a career, because I know that there are different ways to pursue and to be successful. But to me, actually, the easiest way to be successful was through the formation that I had in college. And also, I don't know if this is something that is tough in colleges, but working on your self-confidence is something great. Like, you know, like we as Latinos, for example, we don't look into people's eyes, not look into people's eyes, give your hand, say hi, use your voice. Hey, nice to meet you. My name is blah, 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 blah. So those soft skills are great for you to have. And also, I will say that communication is a key. Communication. when someone asks you for something, reply, looking into their eyes. If you have a question, communicate. If you can't make a deadline, communicate. If you're busy, communicate. Work on your emotional intelligence. This is something great because then we don't take things personal. And finally, have that sense of collaboration. We need to collaborate. We don't need to compete. We just need to collaborate and work together towards our goals. And that's it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for all those great answers. Thank you for giving me a chance to practice my confidence. As you said, talking to you today was great. We are running out of time, but I want to thank everyone so much for attending. Thank you, Alexandra, for all of your insight. We are so happy that you were able to talk to us today. For all of our attendees, please remember that we are going to have another diverse voice speaker on May 18th at 5 p.m. And if you haven't registered yet, feel free to register. Other than that, thank you everyone and have a great afternoon.